Hello. Right, I'm just going to get stuck in now, but you saw my last episode. I was basically just showing off some wood and what I was going to do. So I'm just going to get stuck in and describe what's going on. First thing, I've got to join up some wood together. I've already done the mahogany, which is down here. This camera follows my head, so I'll probably have to do that for you to be able to see it. And I'm now going to do the maple carved top. So, first things first, when you're joining wood together, obviously it needs to be planed dead flat, so you get a nice strong joint. And I know this is because I got the guy bought the wood off to do it, and you want the underneath to be flat. So I've got these clamps at the bottom, and they'll act as a rail to keep the wood flat underneath. I don't know if you can see, but the actual clamping things are a bit high, so I've got other clamps. So, let's get gluing, shall we? Also, a good thing to do is when you're gluing, bearing in mind that when you put pressure on it, it's going to try and come up like that. So it keeps a bit of weight on it. When you have got it clamped, I'd still, if you've got a kettlebell or something, that'd be handy. You don't have to do that, but it's my little tip. So glue on. Use something flat like a credit card or a cheap old ruler like I am. Spread that glue along so it's all over the place. Wood goes down. Just wiggle the joining piece of wood along the side so you've got glue everywhere. In fact, looks about where it should. I'm just going to pull these up. Again, I'm not using these as proper clamps, it's just to make sure they stay flat. Right. And I shall use some of these big boys. Clamp. These are a bit excessive, you don't actually have to get ones this big. Right. Keep some pressure down so it doesn't come up. Nice and tight. As a rule, realistically, more clamps the better. I've got one wide enough clamp left, so I'm just going to stick that on for good measure. Let's just put it down here, I think. Get yourself some roll, spray it with some water, wipe off the excess, and then, now it'll probably stick, I don't know, half hour, might be 20 minutes. That doesn't mean it's cured. So what I tend to do is literally just leave it overnight. So do that, I'll probably give it half hour to a point where I'm kind of like happy where I can move it at least, and then I'll get on with something else. So cut to the next thing. Right, from the last video, I paused it. You may be thinking why I'm covered in sawdust. I was making a new template basically, and I'm happy to show you how to make templates, but most times when people build a first guitar, they'll get a template from someone else online. So if you want to see that video, let me know. neck template. Got the maple top on the floor. Probably been 2 or 3 hours now. I'm still just going to leave it there overnight. Get on with the neck. So, where do I start? The neck. Okay. So, first things first, and with every some hard glue on the table. Everything guitar-wise, centre line. Always, 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 always do a centre line. So, what are we looking at? Sorry if you can't see this, my workshop is smaller than the camera lets on. I have to do it like this so you can see what I'm doing. Right. Bloody thing. Neck has the centre line. Cool. So, most of the questions I got were about the truss rod. I'm hoping I can do that in this video. So that's got a centre line. That's got a centre line. Just stick it on. Now luckily I've got quite a long piece of wood. That wood is just thick enough for that to fit in. So, obviously when you're putting the router along, yeah, I'll be clamping this down. So you want to leave a bit of room at the top. I don't know if you see there, room at the top. Get the clamp down so your router doesn't hit it. But you also still want enough length where, because this isn't a bolt-on neck, it's going to be a glued-on neck. That's probably not thick enough for heel. So what you do is chop a bit off, glue it on the bottom. And then, because I'm using a tune-o-matic bridge, put your brake angle in and you can glue it in. So, first things first, let's get this on here and simply draw around it. That's about right. Once you've drawn around it, make sure you mark your nut lines on the wood. Cool, that's that. Let's just put that nut line in, just to make sure. Can use the protractor, which I left in the front room. Hold on. Right, protractor. Do not go and get a crappy one from WH Smith, which kids use at school. Get a proper luthiers ones, because trust me, it's worth it. Got mine from Crimson Guitars, and it's great because you can line the centre line up, or whatever angles, your brake angles, whatever. It's brilliant. Go check Crimson Guitars out because they got some great stuff. So it's just good for making sure your lines are all dead straight, everything across the centre line. Make sure that is dead on. Always measure twice, cut once. That's the main one. Oop. Would also help if I wasn't blind. I need to get my eyes retested, but we are amidst COVID, and quite frankly, I don't want to go and get my face up in someone else's machine yet. It's your nut line. I'm just going to make sure my nut fits, which I put somewhere here. Cool. Alright, now you know where to cut your truss rod. One truss rod. Now, truss rods are ultimately just a threaded rod with a flat end welded together. So when you wind it up, it will bend that way. And if you wind it back, it will bend that way. So you want this just before your fret line. I don't know if you can see on camera, that's my bottom fret line. That to there, and you're going to mark on your piece of wood the end of it. So we've got nut line there. Nut line, bottom of my truss rod line. Just got as I said, measure twice, cut once. So that's where your truss rod finishes. That's your nut. My truss rod should be 6mm wide. I'm just going to double check. Well, it better be, otherwise I've brought the wrong truss rod. Which it is. Awesome. So, because that's 6mm wide, I'm going to mark 3mm either side of the centre line, so you know that's dead straight. I draw the line. You don't have to do this, but I like to. Just for a bit of extra safety, really. It's 3mm either side. Same down here. Mark the 3mm either side. Draw the line in. Right. Don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Come close. I always forget this is on a wide angle. Bottom of the nut line, centre line, 3mm either side for your truss rod. That's what you've got to take away. So what I'm going to do now is I'll probably pause it whilst I set up the router because that's really boring. We'll go from there. Right. Didn't set the truss rod up. Router up just yet. Because I watched the video back and realised when I was showing you the wood you couldn't really see much. So, rough outline of the neck, nut line, centre line, 3mm over side of the truss rod, either way down to the bottom. So that's what you're cutting out. It's difficult, I haven't got someone filming for me, so sometimes I've got to watch it back and show you. So, that's that. Now I'm going to pause it and set the truss rod rail system up. Okay, so here's the setup. It's easy to get the camera in my hands and show you. Wood is clamped either side of a G-clamp. I've got my router with this rail on it. This rail comes with the Triton router. So far this has been great. Can't complain with it. It's awesome. Router bit in there is 6mm wide, and basically why you draw those 3mm lines either side is when you run it along you can see, a bit hard to do one-handed, that is going to stay within the lines of your truss rod right up until the end, but really hard to film with one hand whilst moving a router. So that's that. With the router, you have this. This is your 0. This here I've set to 9mm, which is how deep my truss rod is. You simply lock that. You'll then turn this around. This will then plunge to 9mm, so you can't go any deeper than 9mm. Run it along. And hope for the best, basically. Now, obviously, you want to be able to access the truss rod for maintenance purposes. So so you are going to want to do a little dig on the other side of the nut line. And then chisel around the extra shape and job done. So Might time lapse this. Let's see what happens. Right. That should be it. Okay. Wish me luck. Always remember safety goggles and breathers and stuff, otherwise you shall have maple sawdust in your boogers for days. That's about dead on, I think. I think the camera stopped following me. Hopefully it hasn't stopped recording. Right, well, that went rather well. As you can see, you've got the access for it. Truss rod all the way along, nice and straight, right down to the end. Now all you need to do is offer it up. For example, the router bits are obviously circular. That's obviously flat. So that's where you get your chisels out, flatten it off, and you'll find, so on that end, it's a bit wider. So what you do is draw around a piece of pencil, draw around there, and chisel out the chunky bit until that slots in. But I think I shall pick that up tomorrow. I realised I got stuck in doing this without filming, so I'll just tell you what I've done. Yesterday, obviously, we stopped when we got the truss rod cavity. Now all I've done off camera, I keep having some technical errors. That camera is going to be pointing at that angle for a while, I'm afraid. Yes, so all you do, bandsaw around the line. Do not go over the line. You want it as close to the line as you can get, so when you route round it, it's a nice smooth cut. So it's pretty straightforward and really need to film it anyway. So what we're going to do now is get the router set up to do the actual shape. To do that, we need to secure this down to the bench, which is the old masking tape and super glue trick, which, if you don't know what that is, masking tape, the thing you want to stick to, two pieces, super glue in the middle of it, so it's nice and secure, but it's also good because you can just rip it straight back up again if you want to. Where you use double-sided sticky tape, you get residue and all sorts. So, no, don't want that. I'm just going to get stuck in. Let's see if we can get this shape routed. Burnish that down. Same with that side. Just get off this up. So obviously, normally you'd use a router table, but my workshop was a bit too small to have one, so I've got to do the old-fashioned way. Yeah, I've got one of that. Stick that on, put some pressure on it. Make sure you've got enough overhang from your desk to actually route this, which looks like I actually don't know. And for extra security, I might put a clamp when I'm not routing that bit, but I've got that secured to the bench. Now, you line up the template over it. Make sure you match up your centre lines. Cool. More masking tape. Future videos, I think I'll just assume you know how to do this and not do it. But I will do it. I'll do it off camera so you're not bored intensely. Trim that excess off. Get that on, make sure your centre lines are all lined up. Otherwise your truss rod's not going to be centre, so it is important. Right, looks about there. Now I'm going to start round at this curve. Hopefully you can see that on camera, so I'm just going to clamp that end just for a bit of extra stability so it doesn't move everywhere. And then when I come to do the headstock, I shall clamp the other edge. So using a bearing cutter, so that bearing will run along the template so you can't cut any further than the template, and that'll take it off. Just going to get it lined up. about there. Now, safety goggles and whatnot. This is where I sound like Darth Vader. Wish me luck. Lucky. Luckily the router, well, they only go in one direction, so you can only cut that way, you can't cut that way. So when you get to a corner, it might nip. So be careful of that. Ooh. That's the process. I'm not going to film all of it. I'm going to flip it around, do the other side, and get on to the next thing. Right. Next thing, now you've got your neck shape and your fretboard. Don't worry about putting a truss rod in yet. What you're going to want to do, I don't know if you can see, centre line down the back of it, centre line at the top, centre line at the bottom. That lines up with a nut. I do 22 fret guitars, so you cut off at the 23rd, so you get a little bit of extra. Basically what you do is line up your centre lines to your neck. Then we're going to clamp it. No glue, nothing like that. We're just going to clamp it to keep it in place. Can't bother to sand that again, so let's get some of these. Right, so as I said, find your centre line, clamp it down in place. That's about right. Let's go on the clamp. And do this one first, so it's actually lined with a nut. Start there. Is it all aligned? Double check. Yes. Move to squidge. That's in line. Everything's in line. So what you do now, if you imagine when you put the glue on, bear in mind how dead straight this has to be. Otherwise your intonation's going to be off, it's not going to sound right, it's not going to feel right. when you put glue on to glue that down, that glue is going to be sliding all over the place and you're not going to be able to line it up. So use the toothpick trick. Hence why you've lined it up with no glue and you know that's going to stay there. Get yourself a toothpick. You're going to drill a 2mm hole through your fret line at the first and somewhere around the bottom either side. So then, when you glue it, you can just push it down on there and it just can't move anywhere. So, 2mm drill bit. It's a saw on the floor. Now obviously be careful not to go all the way through. You're going to want to go just until you hit the maple on the underside. If you go too far, then it's going to stick out the back end. So. Now, remember you don't want to go into the truss rod cavity, otherwise it wouldn't do anything. You don't want to go too far to the edge, otherwise you're more likely to see it when you're carving away. So, I'm going to go about there, I reckon. For me, just got the maple, I've got a tad more. That'll be enough. Same on the other side. Cool. Now you can unclamp it. Check your holes underneath. It looks like just about the perfect area. Now, let's get our truss rod in. Actually, no, let's not. Let's get the toothpicks in. Snap the ends off. That's in. No, I'm thinking truss rod actually, because I can't get it out now. Because we're going to have to tape over it. Truss rod, there's my truss rod. This is why you should tidy up as you go along, because now I can't find anything. Right, what you then do is you put a strip of masking tape over the truss rod. So, for two reasons. One, it can help stop your truss rod rattling. And the other one is, if I can go over that, go on. And the other one is you don't want any glue getting in your cavity and stopping your truss rod from working. So that's that. Get a knife, take away the excess. That's that. Let's get a toothpick in. Toothpick feels a bit square. I want that. That's in like that. So then, glue it, spread the glue along, line up your toothpicks with the holes you made. Just can't see right now. Basically push it all the way down to the bottom, clamp it up, job done. So I'm going to do that now, but this camera's getting on a bit long and it's pretty boring to watch, so I'm going to stop it.